This is the dumbest argument I've ever been involved in, and definitely the most absurd work conversation too. I have a friend, Julie, who has just come back from maternity leave. She and I work on neighboring desks, and the setup is that the longest part of our desks are against each other in a way that leaves us effectively sitting on opposite sides of one large desk. We were on lunch break, eating at our desks, and Julie asks me about when my husband and I are planning on having kids. I reply it's in the works, hopefully within the next year. Definitely sooner rather than later. Then another coworker, who sits on the next set of desks over, hears us talking. Her name is Anna, and I'll admit that Julie and I don't really like her and try and avoid conversations with her in general. Anna interrupts us and says hubby and I are working on having a baby right now. Julie says that's lovely. Anna then says something about hardly being able to wait for baby Joseph. I say that's a lovely name, my father is called Joseph. Anna then says in a light tone, but there's clearly some venom to it, don't you go stealing my name now, and laughs. I'm a bit taken aback by this, to be honest. I'm not offended, but it's just a bit like, okay, never mentioned it, but, sure, and it's really confusing to me, because I know about a dozen Josephs. It's not exactly a unique name or something anyone could steal. Julie tries to change the subject, but there's 2 more occasions during the rest of the workday where Anna just sort of says something to me about not stealing her name, both times in the same joke but menacing tone. At this stage she's getting on my nerves. And then Anna says right as we're leaving, promise me you'll wait until after me, so I get Joseph, and as she says it, she laughs like it's a really funny joke. Julie and I give each other a look that says we really do not get this joke, and I realize that she said I should wait until after she gets pregnant for me to get pregnant in case I steal the name Joseph. We all head off, the 3 of us end up in the lift together, and Julie asks about my plans for tonight. I say, totally deadpan, going to make a baby. The name Joseph is so rare I'm worried someone is going to steal it if I'm not quick enough, and Julie and I both burst out laughing. Anna is really offended. Cannot stress enough how livid she was after hearing me say that. Julie and I both think it's really funny, but I told my sister, and she says that, while it was funny, I was kind of an idiot about the whole thing. I am now doubting how funny it actually was. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot, I think. This sounds an awful lot like bullying. Honestly, it sounds like her comments to you were probably intended with some degree of unrequited familiarity, whereas your comments were intended to provoke her on purpose, to get a reaction, to laugh about with your friend. She also sounds fairly socially unaware. If you don't care to be around her, that's fine. It's best to not engage with them, or grey rock them. But if you're going to make fun of them, and play mean girls, at least have the decency to not do it in front of their face. Not the idiot. There have been so many posts about people getting crazy about someone else stealing their baby's name. Maybe I just don't understand, since I don't have kids, but what's the big deal? A child having the same name as someone else doesn't change the individual child's personality. Plus there have been so many babies named like Nathan or Anna, or something before in the world, and there will be in the future. What's a parent gonna do, trademark a name? In all my school classes we'd always have kids with the same names. Joseph is a common name. Often it's in families like David, John, Matthew, basically anyone who was a disciple or related to Jesus, are all common names. Even if you are not someone who is part, if any particular faith, it's your dad's name. So, she just makes no sense. It's not as if you 2 are besties, and it will be weird at all the play dates to have Joseph 1 and 2. Your other coworker needs to chill. She might end up with all girls. She was being controlling, and an idiot about it. Not the idiot. Been married for 11 years. We are 36 and 39. We have 2 kids. The day before yesterday, I got a phone call and had to rush out to the ER to grab my niece and nephew after my brother-in-law got into a car wreck. His wife wanted to be with him, obviously, but had no sitter, and I was their only option. No big deal. It was around 1 a.m. By the time I got home it was around 3 a.m. and I didn't get to go back to sleep because my niece and nephew had been told what happened and needed some comforting. Again, no big deal. However, I had to work the next night from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. We were due to have a BBQ today, so I intended to sleep for at least 6 hours when I got home from work this morning, so I can uphold a civil conversation without feeling drowsy. My husband is usually pretty good about letting me sleep after work, but today was not one of those days. I laid in bed around 7 a.m. My kids were still in bed when I got home. Hubby was up and reading the newspaper with his coffee. All was fine. At 8:30 a.m. I wake up to my 5-year-old laying in my bed rubbing my face to wake me up. I asked where her dad was, and she said in the garage. So I get up and go outside and ask him to keep the kids out of the bedroom so I can sleep. He apologized and said he hadn't realized they were in there. No biggie. Noon hits and my 3-year-old is jumping on my bed. I tell him to get down and go get his father. 20 minutes later my husband comes in and said Matthew said you needed me. So I said no, I didn't need you. I just wanted him out of the room so I can sleep. He said oh, and closed the door. Not even 45 minutes after that, my husband comes in and flips on the light to rummage through his clothes drawer. At this point, I'm so exhausted that I am freaking pissed. I got up, told him to tell Kathy and John that the BBQ was off, and walked out of the room. He follows me out and asks me what's wrong. I told him, again, that he is making it impossible to sleep. He tried arguing that I have collectively slept for almost 5 hours and that I can go back to sleep. I told him there was no point because either he or our 2 kids would be back in the bedroom harping on me in no time and again told him to cancel the plans. He's now saying that I'm an idiot for blowing crap up and making him look bad for canceling. I think I'm justified because he knew I had very minimal sleep in the days prior and worked an overnight, so the least he could do is allow me to have some much needed uninterrupted sleep. Am I the idiot for canceling the plans? Not the idiot. Even if all these interruptions weren't your husband's fault, it would be valid to ask him to cancel the barbecue. Having a party at your home when you're on no sleep would be absolutely miserable. But it was his fault, so he's an idiot twice over. He didn't bother to keep the kids from bothering you and he literally walked in and bothered you himself. Then he had the nerve to tell you you had gotten plenty of sleep. Maybe tonight when he goes to bed you should poke him awake every 45 minutes for 5 hours and then tell him it's time to get up and host a party. Not the idiot, your husband is being immature and irresponsible. He should instead be treating it as if you were at work. You in the bedroom do not exist during this time period. Although who knows, maybe he does let the kids do whatever and lose track of them when he's watching them. Either way, 5 hours of sleep, interrupted or not, isn't enough for me to function on. And it's besides the point. I guess now you'll have to make it very clear in simple words what he's supposed to do when you are sleeping after a night shift. Not the idiot. On your next night off, wake your husband with an air horn every 90 minutes. The adrenaline rush is a must to help him understand how bad it is to have constantly interrupted sleep. I have worked nights for nearly 30 years, so everyone I deal with is aware that noon is midnight for me, and my sleep is more important than their convenience. Your husband does look bad. He looks like an idiot who can't manage 2 children for 6 hours, so his wife can be healthy and happy. And that's his fault, not yours. So this actually happened a couple of months ago, but it is still being held against me, so I thought I'd ask your view. My boyfriend and I were in a car accident about 2.5 months ago. Head-on collision, the driver in the other lane had fallen asleep and veered into our lane and my boyfriend didn't see in time because the sun was in his eyes. I was completely fine. Initially I thought my boyfriend was completely fine because I looked over and asked if he was okay, and he said he was. We had my 3 dogs with us, 2 on the back of our ute and a puppy in the back seat, so I jumped out and checked on the dogs and was calling the police. I walked over to the other car to check on the occupant and saw they had a baby on board sticker, so I checked the back seat and saw a baby. I checked her over as best I could. I work as a pediatric nurse, and the police showed up about the time I was checking the baby. I stayed with the baby until the ambulance showed up, then went over to my partner who was still in the car and was being assessed for a broken wrist. Since then he has been constantly making digs that the dogs and strangers are more important than him, but frankly I asked if he was okay, and yes, to me in that situation a baby is more important. His parents are also giving me crap about being a bad girlfriend, etc., etc. Was I an idiot here? Everyone involved was okay. Boyfriend had a broken wrist, the lady in the other car had a concussion and some broken ribs, dogs were fine, puppy was scared so badly he peed but otherwise okay, and baby was fine too. Not the idiot. Remember what is said in basic first aid. Your partner was responsive, therefore he's not a risk. Your dog seemed fine upon assessment. You checked the other occupants as you would if this was any other accident, prioritizing the main risk, and assessing from there. You did what a decent human would. If your partner had not been responsive, he would have been one of your priorities. You shouldn't be treated as an idiot. The accident was not your fault, and as a first aider this is very much how we're trained. Not the idiot. It's likely that your boyfriend was in shock and might not have noticed their injuries, but you asked if he was fine first before doing anything else. Given that there were 3 dogs that you knew wouldn't be able to tell you if they were okay and were a lot more likely to have been injured, I can't see how any loving owner wouldn't have checked on them next. Same with the baby on board sign. Checking if the baby was okay was 100% the correct thing to do. Both your boyfriend and his parents are the idiots here. Not the idiot, but do consider that for your boyfriend this could easily have been a traumatic experience for him, that he's having a lot of trouble processing. He shouldn't take it out on you of course, but a sudden head-on collision must be terrifying, especially when being left alone right after, even if for good reasons. I know this suggestion gets thrown around a lot on this sub, but try discussing the idea of him going to therapy to him and see how he feels. My sister Amy had her school prom in summer 2019, and one of her friends, Jess, hosted an after-party for the prom. There are some bad kids from their school who are known for causing trouble, so there was a worry that some of them might turn up to crash the party, which there had been rumors about. Because of that, Amy asked me, 25, to be a doorman or security guard to make sure nobody turns up who isn't supposed to. I didn't fancy spending the night talking to a bunch of teenagers, so I asked my girlfriend, Laura, if she'd like to tag along. She's 30 and an accountant. I dressed casually, because I was just there to help. As for Laura, she likes to dress stylishly and hates dressing down, so she chose a blue dress with matching heels. At this party I was on the doors with Jess's parents, chatting to them and Laura. A lot of the girls at the party came up to her asking where she got her dress and shoes from, what the brand was, and how much they were, etc. The bad kids didn't turn up, so everything turned out fine. Was talking to Amy today and she mentioned that she was chatting to Jess earlier. I asked how Jess was, and she said that Jess still hates my girlfriend for upstaging her at her own party. Jess refers to Laura as that snobby idiot. I think that's crap. At the time Laura was a 28-year-old professional woman who likes to dress nicely, not because she wants to compete with teenagers or upstage them, but because that's her style. Amy thinks that I should have encouraged Laura to dress down, because it was Jess's night. Firstly, I don't decide how Laura dresses. More importantly, I don't see why my girlfriend should plan her outfits around whether it will make teenage girls jealous. I said this was all silly, especially to be holding on to it after a year and a half considering everything that's happened to the world since then. Not the idiot. A. Because you did your sister and her friend a favor. B. Because you rightly acknowledged that you don't decide how Laura dresses. I was really worried if it was going to be a controlling I wanted her to dress like this post, so was hugely relieved when not. Immediate non-idiot points for that, kudos. It's a life lesson that Jess is going to have to learn at some point. You're not always going to be the prettiest or funniest, or most popular person in the room, but that doesn't make you any less of a person than what you are. Not the idiot, your girlfriend was just being herself. As a 28-year-old woman, I have to say that I'm a little weirded out that she dressed up at all to go to a teenager party, as if she was going to party with them, but that's me. I only dress up for parties that I plan on partying at, and that's me being myself. If your girlfriend just likes any excuse to dress up, she was just being herself, no foul. This is just teenager entitlement that Jess will, hopefully, grow out of. Not the idiot. I think your girlfriend was just trying to assimilate with the crowd and also not feel out of place. I probably would have dressed up if I was hosting my daughter's after prom party. It's to keep an aesthetic, and I can respect that. I probably wouldn't have gone to the nines, but I would have made sure I wasn't a sore thumb either. I think what your girlfriend did was totally reasonable. Just tell your sister she peaked in high school, and your girlfriend is still peaking in adulthood, and that's why she's mad.